Oh, hello everyone. Hope you're all doing well, and welcome back to another edition of PT Investigates. Today we're going to be looking into this whole Jared Kushner Russia back channel deal. We're going to dive into it a little bit, look at a couple articles, see what's going on, see what they're talking about it, give you a little background, and then we're going to get into a little bit of my opinion about what's going on, what I think about it. But first, I got a couple updates about my YouTube channel here. So first off, this is the style video you can expect to find from me on a hopefully daily basis. Where go through and investigate certain current events and topics. I also would like to get into doing a longer style format where I go even deeper and more in depth into certain topics. I'm thinking that's probably going to be a weekend project and maybe get my first one out this weekend. With the reports going on today about President Trump withdrawing from the Paris climate deal, I'm thinking that might be a good time to get into climate change. That's something that I've done quite a bit of research about, and I think it's a really important issue. So look forward to that on maybe Saturday, Sunday. We'll see how it goes. So let's get into it. Back channels. Russia, Russia, Russia. Back channels are protocol for a president, but not for a president-elect. Keep that in mind, president-elect. Back channels have been used by every modern president from JFK to Barack Obama. If that's so, what's the problem with the pre-inauguration contacts between the White House advisor Jared Kushner and two Russian intermediaries? It's a fair question, but that doesn't mean that the right answer is a reflexive approval of Kushner's contacts. As offered Sunday by Homeland Security John Kelly, who said of such offline communications, it's both normal, in my opinion, and acceptable. I'd also like to note that James Clapper also said things such as, it raises red flags and it's curious, but he also said that he didn't see anything illegal. So, on with it. The devil here, as in most things, is in the details. Most analysts agree that it is appropriate for a president and their senior aides to use secret contacts to advise U.S. foreign policy goals, and it's fairly routine for incoming administrations to get acquainted talks with foreign governments too. Such back channels can aid stability and predictability in foreign relations. What's not okay is when an incoming administration seeks to undermine the policies of the incumbent. We have one president at a time. That's not just a political truism, but a matter of law, enunciated back in 1799 in the Logan Act, which prohibits private meddling with official policy during a dispute. The fact that this statute has never been enforced criminally doesn't blunt its importance. Many think this law is obsolete. It could actually be a big problem for Trump. And it's not okay either for a citizen, even the son-in-law of the president-elect, to propose contacts that would use the communication tools of a foreign intelligence service to evade detection. As Republican Adam B. Schiff, Democrat of California, said Sunday, you have to ask, well, who are they hiding the conversation from? Well, I hope to answer that a little bit for you. This article goes on to compare Kushner to the whole Flynn situation with Kislyak. This is a Washington Post article. I'm going to leave the link in the description. You can read the rest of it for yourself. So we're going to get into what is the Logan Act actually. The Logan Act. Statute 631, 18 U.S.C. 953, enacted January 30th, 1977, is a U.S. federal law that details the fine and/or imprisonment of unauthorized citizens who negotiate with foreign governments having a dispute with the United States. It was intended to prevent the undermining of the government's position. So, do we know at all what Jared Kushner was talking about? Well, here we got an article from ABC News. It says, Kushner asked Russian ambassador for back channel on Syria and other policy matters. So, what did they talk about? President Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner talked with the Russian ambassador in December, establishing a back channel for communications. ABC News has learned from 2 sources. That's it, just 2 sources. We don't get any names. The sources stress that the talk between Kushner and Russian envoy about communications was focused on the U.S. response to the crisis in Syria and other policy-related matters. The meeting, as ABC News reported previously, took place at Trump Tower in New York, and was also attended by Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who later became President Trump's short-lived national security advisor. And this goes on to talk about the Washington Post article and linking Kushner to General Flynn and blah, 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 blah. So we're going to go for, and this article will also be linked in the description. You can go read the rest of it for yourself if you'd like. So what they're saying here is President Trump set up a back channel, well, was trying to set up a back channel via his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to avoid hiding communications from somebody. From who, we don't know. Supposedly, according to Adam Schiff, we don't know. So this is unprecedented, right? You remember what Washington Post said. It's okay for a president, it's protocol for a president, but not for a president-elect. So President Trump was elected at this time. He hadn't taken office, but he was in the transition process. So how abnormal is it for a president-elect to have some kind of back channel? And I'm gonna tie all this in together. Just bear with me here. So we're gonna go look at something Obama did, and so let's see. Here we've got an article from August 29th, 2014. Now this is about a completely different issue, but it does tie into what we're talking about here. Obama's latest big lie: we have no strategy. So let's get into it. They do have a strategy, but they prefer to appear indecisive. That's because the strategy would likely provoke even greater criticism than the false confession of endless dithering. The actual strategy is Denton, however you say that word, first, and then a full alliance with Iran throughout the Middle East and North Africa. It has been on display since before the beginning of the Obama administration. During his first presidential campaign in 2008, Mr. Obama used a secret back channel to Tehran to assure the mullahs that he was a friend of the Islamic Republic and that they would be very happy with his policies. The secret channel was Ambassador William G. Miller, who served in Iran during the Shah's rule as Chief of Staff for the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and as an ambassador to Ukraine. Ambassador Miller has confirmed to me his conversations with Iranian leaders during the 2008 campaign. So what we see here is we're talking about President Obama, former President Obama, thankfully. We're talking about something he did during the campaign, during his first campaign. He was not elected yet. He was not in office yet. He wasn't in transition. This is during his campaign. And also, I'd like to point out, we have an actual source on the record. And this link here, if you click on this link, it takes you to sourcewatch.com. It gives you pages and pages and pages of background on this guy. Seems like a credible source to me. But we're looking at somebody on record here who is telling us about these conversations that he's had. Now, I'm not saying that anything illegal was done here, but why was this in the media? Why wasn't anybody talking about this when President Obama was elected, or even back in 2014 when the story was broke? And as always, this article will be linked below. It goes on to talk a little more about what what this article is actually about. And but let's go back to this Washington Post article. It says sources. Where are we looking at here? It never gives a name of where this information came from. It never tells us who told us about this. And you look at ABC here also. ABC News has learned from two sources, no names, just two sources. Anybody can write this crap. So what they're saying Trump has done here, Obama has done at least that much, if not worse. Trump was actually at least president-elect at the time. He was in the transition process. President Obama hadn't even been elected yet, and he's already setting up back channels and talking with foreign leaders and telling them how he's going to be friendly with them and all this and that. And the Logan Act, it's specifically talking about something negotiating with a foreign power that the U.S. is hostile with to undermine the U.S. status. So that does not apply to Jared Kushner here. That's not what was going on. That's clearly not what they were talking about. They said he is setting up a back channel to talk about Syria and other policy matters in the future. They're in the process of just setting up the back channel. They're not actually discussing policy matters and discussing situations in Syria and what they're going to do. They're setting up ways that they're going to do this in the future. And so, why do I bring up President Obama in the first place? Am I saying that because he did it, it makes it okay for Trump to do it? No, not at all. Standing on principle, I don't like shady stuff like this. I don't like back channels and the backroom dealings, and I like things to be transparent when it comes to government. I want to know what the people in power are doing. What it matters to me. So why did Trump do it? Well, in order to answer that question, I think we have to look at one more article. So, what do we have here? Article from CNN Politics, and it will be linked as low as well if you'd like to read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's just check out the headline here. Trump had heated exchange with Australian Prime Minister, talked tough hombres with Mexican leader. And as I said, I'm not going to read this entire article. You can go read it for yourself if you'd like. I would just like to point out the point of this article, and that would be, that's right, wiretapping. Whether you want to call it wiretapping, spying, digital surveillance, it happened. And there is all kinds of evidence just like this. We know that certain names were unmasked in intercepted exchanges with foreign leaders, and unmasked for no reason other than the apparent political gain that it could bring. And the reason I chose to point out this particular article here is this is the same thing. These are leaks from somebody within the White House or the quote unquote deep state, and these were private conversations that nobody else really had a reason to know anything about, and they were leaked for no other reason than political gain, no other reason than to make President Trump look bad. So yes, I think it's because of wiretapping. Now, do I like the secrecy? Like I said, no. But when I look at it from President Trump's perspective, I can see reasons for it. When you have your entire opposition fighting you tooth and nail about absolutely everything you want to do, when you have your opposition pushing this Russia narrative with absolutely zero evidence, I can see why you might want to set up a go around for your normal communications. He's got to know by this time that he's being spied on. There was news articles all throughout his campaign, and especially just after he was elected, all these leaks. So we know he was being spied on. He had to know at that time he was being spied on. So I can absolutely see why he would want to go. I mean, his hands are completely tied with Russia without some kind of back channel. I mean, like we saw with the meeting just a couple weeks ago when he met with Kislyak and the other advisor. They blew that out of proportion like that's some big deal. He cannot do anything. He cannot, like Sean Spicer said, he can't put Russian salad dressing on his salad without it being some kind of Russian connection. So I can definitely see why he would want to set up some kind of back channel like this. So in conclusion, I guess I'd just like to say I wish everybody would chill out. Stop with all this Trump Russia hysteria. You know, there is a special counsel in this now. He's investigating. He has unlimited authority to investigate anything having to do with Russia meddling, unlimited resources to investigate anything having to do with Russia meddling. So we're going to find out. You know, my personal opinion, I don't think Trump's done anything wrong. You know, they have literally been so far up his ass, they could be giving him a prostate exam for the last year, and we have seen no evidence, not the first piece of evidence whatsoever, that he's done anything wrong. And I might get into some of this in some later videos. I might go back and just do one of those weekend project things like I was talking about and just cover this whole Russia thing from beginning to end. Check out the dossier, and we'll go through that, debunk what can be debunked of that. And but yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I had fun. I should be seeing you tomorrow. I'm not quite sure what the topic will be yet, but check back tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And like I said, also be looking forward to on this weekend to the climate change thing. I think that's going to be an interesting video. So, like I said, have a good one.